Hi,
Hello,
please tell me your name.
my name my name is Maria Esquela. I am the president of the Enable Alliance. It's also called the Alliance for Project-Based Learning Solutions. It's a government-recognized, tax-exempt nonprofit in the United States, based in Maryland, just north of Washington D.C.
And why are you here at the ePIC in Paris?
This meeting changes my whole year. It fuels all of the ideas that I get in imagining a 2 year to 5 year trajectory for credentialing people for skills that will allow them to develop and grow along a lifetime of learning for anyone in any situation, truly.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And what is your thought on open recognition?
So my background,
Yeah.
to be clear, is I've been in the scouting movement for quite a long time. I was the senior residency coordinator in the neurosciences at Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions, where I had all of the adult and pediatric residencies and fellowships, aided with the clerkships, and worked on continuing medical teaching programs.
Yes.
I was the portfolio expert for advanced informatics and developed Hopkins portfolio for credentialing and tenuring faculty members. And I worked with institutions all over the world in a number of other different types of higher education programs. When I look at open recognitions for the community that I am currently serving, it is calling on me to use every bit of knowledge that I have, from being a parent to being a scout chaplain to being engaged in medical education, and imagining how that information can be exchanged efficiently and helping people to move forward as quickly and easily as possible in whatever their training program is. So the people who are in the Enable community have various understandings of what Enable is, and I think that it is even more so with the people who look at us from the outside. So I imagine the open recognitions process will take a community that is very distributed, and it will allow them to create their own path for themselves and at the same time rechart their own stars. So I think that people will understand that there are various skills needed to do very simple things. And if they want to progress and do more complicated things, they will naturally seek out the mentors who are teaching those skills and the activities to prove the acquisition of those skills, and they will make their own progress. Amongst the youth who are in the movement in the United States, it will allow me to partner them with classrooms who do not have the same advantages, but are on the same playing field because they're being introduced to the technology at the same time. They can earn the same badge. The teachers can use the same badges to assist them. The people who are collecting their stories as they are helping other children um, either fabricate their own arms and hands or create other tools to address the needs that they know very well as displaced people, or just because of their day-to-day needs in their community. These people will change roles, and the identification of these roles will help people understand and communicate with each other, because they can go from a need knower to an advocate or their own self advocate to a member of a collaborative research team that is very varied. It's either they're highly trained professionals, they're well-meaning lay people, there are schools and students, and then at the center of it is a person who is asking for assistance in addressing a need that they have. It could be addressing an issue regarding accessibility for vision impairment. It could be creating a 3D printed prosthetic considered by the Food and Drug Administration in the United States as a Class 1 medical device with exceptions. It could be the collaborative effort to create lower limb prosthetics. There are efforts to create exoskeletons and tools and teaching manipulatives. There are also people who are applying the Enable method of rapidly innovating with the need knower so that it matches the culture and the personality of the person that it's for, because they're part of that team, and finally approving it. So that badge of completing that object, completing that effort, can really be broken down into all of the small goals and best behaviors that we want to see without having to hover over them or impose it upon them, and to allow them to use their own culture to create the solution that's appropriate for them with the materials that they have on hand, to create something that's sustainable and something that's beautiful and something that matches the person's for. The ultimate goal is for those people to become communicators and even teachers by sharing the result. And the Enable movement is to share that as an open source design so that anyone, anywhere could use that as their beginning point if it was not enough to meet the need that they actually had. To use open science and open data to allow people to test that device and to improve it. The people who are going to use that solution have to transform themselves from just being members of a collaborative research effort to being the test pilots. And so they deserve recognition for that.
Yeah.
And then to give that feedback to the group and have the group communicate that back to a community that uses it to rapidly innovate so that the next hand is better than the first. That process should also be encouraged. So every behavior, every role, every moment that our solutions practice could be mapped to curriculum, and every attempt where people are working and acquiring skills that could be mapped to a workforce skill, those should all be badged. And so I've been spending the past year talking to sponsors and work groups and universities who are using solutions and problem-based learning to make relevant learning in their classroom be something that can be conveyed over to resolving a pain point in the world. That is the movement, and the open badges will help us not only to document that, it will help people get grants for their social impact, but it should help people who have nothing be able to assert their intellectual property and gain educational and employment opportunities. So that's why I came.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very thoughtful. And is there anything that you want to share with me, with us, what you acquired today or yesterday or the day before?
Yes.
This is the last day of the ePIC already, so.
It is. What I have seen is that we are more unique than I knew. It gave me a context for what we're doing. That's good. It was necessary to do that. It helped me to build the network so that we can share solutions-based learning with others who are very focused on curriculum goals, but are not producing things that are usable in their community. There are a lot of people working in silos who do not understand that a portfolio is just a thing. It's not just a thing, it's actually a living document and a treasure of someone's experience that should be shared as much as possible as the raw material for someone else's study. A child's storytelling portfolio is someone else's qualitative research, and someone else's qualitative research is the bedrock for the motivation for quantitative research that needs to be outlined. So there is a learning pathway that we see in an individual's life, but in the lifetime of a community, to use these very sparing resources well. We need to network better to share. And I think that the last thing that I got out of this was that we've been looking at Bitcoin, we've been looking at blockchain as a way of asserting the intellectual property for an open source movement. And I appreciated also the bit of trust, because now we see that there are badges that can have recognitions and an authority behind them that have the bit of trust be the pathway for badges that have expiration dates or could change in status, and to use the blockchain for things that are immutable and need to be strongly asserted, like a degree or intellectual property. And for me to have that clarity and to see the movement in that larger context was extremely helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And is there anything else that you experienced these days?
I love the beauty of the badges. I think that we've been struggling with some of my volunteers at the Parsons School of Design in New York to make a visual vocabulary. It was discussed more in Bologna last year than it was here. I think that it's worth revisiting it every year, especially since this is an international movement and we're talking about communication outside of the actual ecosystem. But I thought that what HPAS was doing in a universal way without language at all was revolutionary, and I think that it's worth us continuing to look at that in the context of the other badges that are being designed on the fly.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you. How was that?